Hey there, happy day 684. Oh my God, 684 of doing one thing every day that makes me happy, sharing myself, sharing my story, sharing my journey online with you, mostly online with me, to keep track of and journal my journey from offline brick and mortar corporate America to the online world. It's been an interesting ride, day 684, so obviously I'm not done yet. Here's a trick. We never get done with anything for the most part. Whatever goals, whatever we kick the camera, whatever goals and objectives we have, we always set another goal. So when I achieve one goal, guess what? I'm going to set another one. That's just the nature of the beast. We never stop eating. We never stop growing. We never stop moving or changing. If we do, guess what? We're done. And then we're dead. Not a good thing to be. So the most controversial key, what do I mean by this? I've been talking about as part of the BP challenge. I'm doing a 90-day challenge called the BP challenge. And I'm in this section where I'm talking about the 7 key areas and aspects of our life. So physical and mental, emotional, spiritual, contribution, relationships, and financial. Now, I contend that, I suppose there could be some arguments, but for the most part, there isn't much more controversial than the topic of finances and money. I think back to corporate America and my job in corporate America, and one of the unwritten rules and guidelines was that you could never tell anybody, nobody could ever know how much anybody else was making, unless it was a team system where everybody made the same amount of money, and then the team members knew how much they made. But we didn't really do that for very long in any of the companies I worked for. It was always a skill-based, we moved to a skill-based team system. Even at Procter & Gamble, my first job out of college, we went from everybody made the same amount of money on the teams to they had different skills, and for each different skill you got, you could earn more money. It replaced the old, everybody makes the same amount of money and then you get your annual raise or whatever with performance reviews. But even in corporate America, it was taboo for anybody to know what anybody else made. I'm sure like finance department and human resources knew what everybody made, but for the most part, it was not talked about. And if you were to ask or talk about it, you were shunned for the most part. It was just not a topic that you were allowed to talk about. And I've carried with, and a lot of people have carried with, this fear of talking about money or money. And money is just this taboo subject. Our finances are this huge taboo subject. And guess what happens if we have a taboo subject? We're not paying attention to it. If we're not paying attention to it, we're not creating what we want. Or we're creating by default, and we're just getting whatever comes our way. Not the best way to deal with our lives, right? Especially in the area of relationships and money, and well, actually any area of our life, but money in particular. So today has been all about finances. The saying for Supersize Your Business was keep your head above water. There are so many expressions that talk about treading water, keeping afloat, and they have to do with water and not drowning, which then ties into our financial responsibility and our financial stability. There's lots of idioms and sayings about that because we've lived and we continue to live in this environment and this culture and this world where we're taught to believe that there isn't enough to go around. There isn't enough for everybody, that you have to get your little piece of the pie and be competitive, and that if you don't buy now, you're going to miss out and it's never going to be available again. If you miss this opportunity, you're just screwed. You're never going to have this opportunity again. And that is all man-made BS created scarcity. We live in a totally, absolutely, positively abundant universe. If you don't believe me, look outside your window. Look at nature. Look at it. Just think of one tree. How many leaves are on a tree? How many snowflakes are out in my front yard right now? Just okay, how many snowflakes are in 1 foot of my front yard right now? Doesn't even matter. Millions and millions and billions. There is an abundance of everything. And so to think that there isn't enough for you is absolutely ridiculous. It's only we marketers and salespeople and business owners and politicians and people in power who want to control other people that put forth the belief that there's not enough, that it's scarce resources, and that you're not going to be able to get what you want if somebody else gets it first. It's ridiculous. And it sets us all up for misery and struggle and failure. So that's just my today's take on scarcity and lack. And I will admit, I've been the victim of scarcity thinking and lack thinking and scarcity mentality as well. And I really didn't think I was until I started to move recently. This fall I moved, and I had so much stuff, so much abundance in my life that I was holding on to and keeping. And I realized that me holding on to all those things was because I had let the beliefs of societies of scarcity and lack, I had let that mentality seep into my being on a subconscious level. And so I was keeping all this stuff thinking that I had to hang on to it because I wasn't going to get it again. That is a clear example of scarcity mentality and scarcity thinking. And it was like in my face. I was like, oh my God, I'm like a borderline collector and hoarder of things that I don't need and could never use in my lifetime. I will admit, I still have a little bit of a office supply hoarding mentality. I don't know why, but I love office supplies. It used to be that way with teddy bears and things that we collect. But I realized, I don't know why, I was packing things up and I realized I don't need all this stuff, and I just started giving things away. And I gave away 90%. And my goal was to downsize and get rid of and let go of, not to get rid of, but to let go of and bless other people with 90% of the stuff that I had been saving and collecting, because I might need it someday, right? I might need that someday. I might wear that sweater that I hate one more time before I give it away. No. So massive downsizing. And actually, it was like a total weight had lifted. A huge weight had lifted. And it's actually a burden to have and hold on to all that stuff. So finances. I'm getting totally off track, but we're talking about finances. But we have the same beliefs and the same feelings about our finances, that there's not enough to go around. We can't know what anyone else makes because then there'll be jealousy and resentment. Well, if there's jealousy and resentment because you're not paying people fairly in your organization, you're not treating them well, then that's the problem, not what someone's making. And remember, here's the thing about having a job. You are only ever paid what the job and the task that you're performing is worth. It doesn't have anything to do with what you are worth. As human beings, we are worth an infinite amount. You cannot put a monetary value, which is also a man-made thing, by the way, money, on a human being, a human life. We are all incredible, infinite beings, and therefore infinitely valuable. So remember that it's just trading that job, the time that you spend on that job, that problem that you solve, for money. So in a job especially. All right, I'm off track. So we talked about keeping your head above water and supersize your business. Talked about day 78 for the BP challenge. We talked about finances, which is what led me to this topic altogether, being a very emotionally laden, dramatic topic for most people. And all you have to do is, next time you want to really start a controversy, ask somebody how much money they make and watch how they react and see if they freak out. And if they end your friendship, then you know that was probably an emotionally laden topic for them. I will admit that I've never done that. I've never gone, and because society has put this big taboo on it that we're not allowed to know how much income or money other people make, unless of course you're in internet marketing and you're blowing your income and your pay stub, not your pay stubs usually, unless you're in a network marketing company, but you're plastering your bank accounts and things across the internet to impress other people for your ego and get other people involved in your thing, whatever the thing is that you're selling or doing. But for the most part, it's considered taboo to talk about and show it. And how do people show off how much money they're making? With all the stuff that they own, right? Their fancy eye masks and their cars and their homes and their automobiles and their jewelry. Okay, I did get these as a gift. So, to me, I'm really curious. How do you feel about the subject of finances and money? Is it a positive subject for you or a negative subject for you? Is it a keep quiet taboo subject for you? I know in families especially. In our families, even in my family, nobody talks about money. Nobody talks about how much money they make. Nobody talks about, and we're all entrepreneurs, but it's just we never talk about it. It's not a subject of conversation. Never gets brought up. We might talk about the ideas and things we're doing in our businesses, but we don't talk about money, unless of course I'm on a team where we're talking about the finances of a particular business, but that is then not individuals' income, it's the business's finances. So I guess even I have hang-ups about talking about money. lesson learned improvement area. That's it. That's all I've got today. Busy, busy, busy. End of the year, 90-day challenge winding down. Tons of coaching and projects that are going on, events, project of my own that I'm trying to wrap my head around and rock and roll and get done and out. In addition to all the other commitments that I have, plus the holidays. So, like you, busy, busy, busy. Actually, my favorite time of year. It used to be my favorite time of year. The last couple of years, it's been different and not always awesome, I guess. This year, the kids are going to Florida. My daughter and her husband are going to Florida, so that for the holidays, so that makes me kind of sad. But we always figure Christmas out. Sometimes we need to be flexible with when we celebrate with people. And the older I get, I mean, I used to be gung-ho, we're celebrating Christmas on Christmas Day. And I had these rituals and all these routines of the way it had to be. And the older I get, the more I've just backed off on that. And I'm like, hey, anytime I can spend with you would be awesome. Let's plan it for the weekend before, the weekend after, whatever works for everybody's schedule, to reduce the level of stress, to keep my blood pressure down and everyone else's, just to reduce the level of stress that comes around the holidays with other people's expectations. I don't expect anything of anybody. I expect you to take care of yourself and have an awesome time. And I think that I expect me to take care of myself and have an awesome time. I think that that's a much healthier way to approach the holidays than running around like a chicken with my head cut off, which this is my chicken without its head cut off. If I can, oh, its wing is stuck. Without its head cut off. I do have one with its head cut off as well, packed away in a box somewhere, but I found this little chicken guy. So instead of doing that, I've adopted a much more lackadaisical, relaxed philosophy about the holidays. And I think I've gotten away with it because I am older and because my kids are grown now, and their expectations of, or my expectations of myself for what Christmas should look like for them has changed dramatically. And that's a good thing. Change is good. All right, that's it. If I can help you in any way, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Keeping in mind, I will answer you, and I will answer you as quickly as I possibly can, but maybe not as quickly as I usually do because I am so smart. Have an awesome day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow. Bye. With another report of what the heck I'm doing.